Rida Lyammouri. You're a senior fellow at the Policy Center for the New South. You're an expert in the geopolitics and security dynamics in Western African Sahel. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
So my first question is just to start off and lay the ground of what is happening right now in Niger. What are the factors, the political, social, and economic factors that led to the coup d'etat? And also, how did they collectively shape this situation?
Yeah, I think when we look at what happened in Niger, it's important to look at a little bit of historical facts. Niger, since its independence in 1960, witnessed at least four successful coup d'etats, in addition to at least dozens attempts. So this is sort of a trend in the country that have seen this repeated coup d'etats and the control by the military. And let's not forget that the last elections, the transition from Issoufou to Bazoum, it was the first transition from civilian to civilian. Another observation is that 2 days before the inauguration of President Bazoum, there was another attempt of a coup. So this might have caught a lot of people by surprise, but at the same time, if we look at the historical facts, the threat of a coup d'etat has always been there. Now to go back to the reasons and the reasons behind the latest coup, we can stick to the ones that have been highlighted by the junta, by the military leaders that have themselves carried the coup. The excuses have been the economic, social, and security. If we talk about economic, I think it's unfair to blame Bazoum about economic development because he has only been in office for less than 2 years. And I think actually the economy, the domestic economy, has been growing since he's been in office, and this came on the back of the COVID crisis. So the economic excuse, it's not credible. If we talk about social development, Niger has Bazoum have been promoting and pushing for a lot of social development, especially about women, about education, about fertility rates, for example. Niger has the highest fertility rates in the world. And I think those are some of the issues that Bazoum have been trying to resolve. Security, Niger has been doing much better compared to its neighbors, to Mali and Burkina Faso. The largest deadly attacks against state forces in Niger have happened in 2021 and 22, and in the last year, there has been only a few, if not at all, when we talk about large-scale attacks. Despite that, jihadist groups continue to pose a threat in different parts of the country, as well as not controlling, but continue to force people to flee their homes and their communities and be displaced. So those are some of the issues and other drivers that were more of rumors than actual facts related to competition over power and control of contracts related to natural resources. But those are very difficult to confirm. Another driver, another factor that was also mentioned is the idea of Bazoum changing the leadership among presidential guards that were already in place during his predecessor during Issoufou time. So there were a lot of there was a combination of drivers, but it's very difficult to put the finger on one issue that has led to the coup.
I mean, you've spoken about the insecurity that there is in Niger, although it's less than the neighbors of Niger. And the coup d'etat, there's also a ramification on the security landscape in the Sahel because it affects not just the Sahel, but also Central Africa. What can you say about what could be the potential ramifications to expect?
It's a little bit early to connect the coup to insecurity in Niger and in the region in general. If we look at, for example, give the examples to Niger's neighbors, Mali and Burkina Faso, I think one of the excuse that both military regimes try to gain support domestically is to tackle domestic security issues. We can see today that Mali and Burkina Faso, both countries, are struggling to contain the expansion of jihadist groups, to prevent large-scale attacks against state forces as well as against civilians. They are struggling to liberate and lift embargoes and blockades imposed by jihadist groups on a lot of locations and the localities in both countries. In addition to people continue to flee their homes because of insecurity. So to say that the coup is going to address security issues is misleading. And what we are seeing in Mali, Burkina Faso, it's a perfect example. Now, the implication of what happened in Niger and the idea of creating this coalition between the three countries, it's a stretch and it's unlikely to succeed because all of the three countries don't have the resources and the capabilities to do that effectively. And at the same time, we don't have to just think about the countries and the states themselves, but also the jihadists are also thinking about what's going to happen. And we are already seeing that both organizations affiliated to the Islamic State and Al Qaeda positioning themselves in a way that they can counter any sort of like coalition between Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, because the Islamic State and Al Qaeda in the area are also talking among themselves and negotiating a way that they can create a coalition to counter that. So the security implications are going to be in the short term. We are unable to see results, but I think months from now we will start seeing the ramifications of that, and the implications, especially if Niger also divorced itself and then it stepped away from collaboration with international partners, mainly France and the US.
I mean, you've spoken about the separation with international partners, but this is also taking place at the regional level, with especially Nigeria, whose role came really at the forefront with this crisis. What can you tell us about this regional division, and how does it, what are the perspectives for the Western African Sahel in the future?
It's problematic because I think division is going to the conflict in the region and insecurity is not contained in one country. There are no borders to insecurity. The jihadists don't believe in borders, so they don't operate in one country and not in another. So that regional collaboration between Niger, Nigeria, Benin, Togo, Burkina Faso is key to counter not only jihadist groups, but also transnational organized crime. So that division is going to prohibit and going to limit that regional collaboration, and eventually criminal networks and jihadists will benefit from this lack of collaboration and coordination between these actors. And the neighboring countries are also, and then the leadership, especially in Nigeria and Benin, Togo, they're looking after themselves because they don't want to see this trend, this continuing trend of coup d'etats happening in the region. And that's another reason, the reason why they are responding with strong words and the idea of military intervention if Bazoum have not been reestablished and put back in his role.
So Niger was also central to foreign powers' strategy in the Sahel. Now this has been reconsidered, but each foreign power is navigating the coup d'etat in its own way. I mean, what is the trend that is emerging at the moment on this issue?
Indeed, there are multiple global powers that consider Niger a strategic partner. If we start about the U.S., the U.S. has its second largest base in Niger, in addition to other small base that it's based in northern the country that is mainly operated for a collection of intelligence and trying to monitor the movement of criminal networks as well as jihadist groups in the Sahel in the region. And the U.S. has invested hundreds of millions of dollars, not just in security collaboration, but also in aid. Niger is one of the main receivers of the recipients of aid from the U.S. So the U.S. has invested too much to just step away and step away from Niger and cut its ties. And that's why if we have noticed that the U.S. has yet to call what happened at Coup, because once that happened, the U.S. has to cut all its ties with Niger, and I don't think the U.S. is willing to let go all that investment and open the door to other global powers such as Russia, which gradually in Africa tried to position itself in areas where the U.S. and the West in general are losing grip of their influence. Then we have France, which is a longtime partner to Niger back to colonial days. And Niger also became key to France because all the troops that were based in Mali and Burkina Faso has been repositioned in Niger. So Niger is home right now to more than 1,000 French troops and about 1,100 U.S. troops. So it is key an ally to Western powers. And France cannot, to the point where it cannot accept another, not defeat, but it's just another setback in the region, because they have already been asked to leave in Mali, in Burkina Faso, and has already happened as well in Niger. And I think they have to manage that very carefully, because once that is done, it also opens doors to Russia, to Turkey, to other international partners that are willing to come in and fill that void. Turkey has already been involved in secured contracts with the Niger government, selling drones. Has also been involved in economic development, mainly in construction, and finally, China is controlling the oil sector in the country.
So, just so we can wrap up the discussion, what are your perspective on the situation? What could happen in the future?
It's very difficult to say, to predict what's going to happen, but we can say that it's very unlikely to see Bazoum being put back into power at this stage. Most likely, we will see more diplomatic efforts by all the international partners, especially from the West, from France and the European Union in general, as well as the US, to try to negotiate a genuine and also reasonable transition to civilian power. Unfortunately, this is not going to lead to civilian power, because we know that these military leaders are unlikely to let go the power that they have generated after the coup, and will try to position themselves politically, and we will continue to see this trend of military leaders trying to repeatedly seize control over civilian actors. In addition to these dynamics and diplomatic efforts, we will see unfortunately security situation to deteriorate in the short midterm, especially if Niger decided to step away from its traditional partners like the U.S. and France and the European Union. I think that will set the region in an unwanted trend of instability before we can reach any sort of stability and security to the region.
So Rida, we're at the end of our discussion. Thank you for your valuable insights.
Thank you for having me.
And to our viewers, thank you for joining us on Africafé. And if you want more information on the topic, you can visit our website. Thank you.